Hello. This week we will start discussing Chapter 6, the spiritual person. You can, relate to the other chapters. We have studied the biological person, and we will uh, continue with the environment and other aspects that influence or dictate, modify, etc. Human behavior. This it's a relatively short chapter, and for the most part, um, you can just read the slides. Um, the first thing is to differentiate between spirituality and religion. So we're going to talk a lot about, the spirituality is this process of, human development. It start from, very young age to, throughout our life. Um, it's the search for meaning, uh, purpose, morality, well-being. It doesn't necessarily mean that you believe in uh, you know, a God, technically. You know, just it has to do with the relationship with other being, the universe, what sort of compass, moral value compass we use. Um, the other hand, religion is institutionalized, you know, already designed, you know, stated uh, a group of values, beliefs, symbols, behaviors, and yes, it does include spirituality. So spirituality is the bigger umbrella where religion, falls into. Um, um, well, you can just obviously read the slide. There's not a lot more to add here. If I can, okay. Moving on. There's not a lot of point in me just reading the slides. So if you can just go over Exhibit 6.1, Symbolic Themes of Spirituality. I'll give you a minute. You can always pause. It continues, Um, I want the reason I put the asterisk is, to connect, any or many of these 20 themes are, most applicable to, the case studies. I usually just ask you to do one. So I'm thinking that I know that the semester classes are smaller, especially mine's, and you may have to wait until your colleagues comment or do their discussions to really comment. So if in lieu of that, if you want to add one more one more case study, I'll see that as, I'll use that. I think it's only fair. So if you do two case studies, obviously answering the questions, then I would. You don't need to do the comments on two of your fellow students. I'm only recommending that for the people who are, the first. I won't necessarily recommend that for the people who are, not wait until the last minute, but then those last couple of people have the opportunity to comment, but it's for the other people who tend to do their discussion first. Not gonna necessarily discuss the stats. You can read them. As you can see, there's large percentage in the U.S. that believe in God or some sort of deity, etc. And again, I'm not gonna necessarily go through this pie chart because you can stop and read the slide. The same thing with the next one. What I really want to take some time is to discuss some of this theories. I probably will cover more than the book, but that's why you're watching this video, not just for the book. So starting with Carl Jung, who was a student of Freud, he believed that there were certain archetypes, so they included physical, mental, spiritual, and other aspect or archetypes that constitute human behavior. He did disagree with Freud in terms of the libido, which is sexual. He thought that this libido that we all have is not only connected to sex. It is this sort of psychic energy, which Freud thought that it was a sexual energy, but Jung thought it was a psychic energy, and that energy, psychic energy, motivated people, individual subjects, in the areas of spirituality, intellect, creativity, so sort of it is a feeling that we all have, not to necessarily sexual like Freud, but he went that all of these things like searching for spirituality give us a pleasure and makes us feel better. So, for instance, in the same way, learning or being creative. So you can see how, well, this is the first one that I'm talking about, but Jung so that there's this psychic energy that we all have, and we by seeking, since we're talking about spirituality, so by seeking this spirituality, which is finding ourselves a meaning that give us pleasure and maybe reduces our stress, conflict, etc. So you can see how spirituality have a place or a part to play in our behavior. So Robert Assaglioli came after Jung. We're talking for Assaglioli, the 60s and 70s. So like Jung, he saw that, there are this energy, and we strive to get this, spiritual dimension, which he named psychosynthesis, and it included the constructs of higher unconscious or super unconscious, which it did follow Jung teachings and writings. Okay, I don't want to go back since I was talking about Robert Assaglioli, but I added a little bit an explanation on Jung archetypes. It just, as you can see, these are different sort of, I don't know if you want to call it, inside ourselves, in our unconscious. We have the innocent, which the goal is to be happy. The flaws to trusting, the skills open-minded. And you can see that we have the orphan. That goal is to belonging. So it is almost like you have all of these characters. You see here the jester, which is the funny person, the creator, and so on. And this is another way of looking at his theory in terms of, from the center to the outside, yearns for paradise, leave mark on the world, connect with others, provide structure to the world. You can, all of those things, and then you see how here, we have the magician. I sort of wanted to present it in two different ways. Where is it? The hero, you see? So it is two different ways. This, I think this is maybe visually better, but I also think that this other image, bring you the, the goal, the flaws, the skills, like the innocent sage and the explorer. They're all yearning for paradise, and you can see that the outlaw, magician, and hero leave a mark on the world, and so on. Okay, so going back to Roberto Assaglioli, he there's I talk, or the book talks about this higher unconscious, middle, and lower, which it's this egg diagram, that the higher unconscious is love, spontaneity, trust, warmth, acceptance. Middle is survival, personality, and then lower, shame, anger, reflection. So the collective, as you see, is the outer, outside of the diagram, as the collective, and in the center we have the I, or consciousness and will. So you can see that, for instance, for probably in the aspect of spirituality, it would be higher unconscious, that this need for love, or spontaneity, trust, warmth, acceptance, right? I guess into, it may go also into survival too. And when spirituality is kind of not working the way, or we go against those, then we have those shame, and other feelings like that. So we always striving, for this higher unconscious. All right, let's move on with Maslow. Maslow, as we mentioned in earlier lecture, is the founder of the humanistic psychology. Yes, so originally you all know Maslow as the pyramid that you see here, the hierarchy of needs, and originally he had 5, physical, security, social, ego, and self-actualization, which you need to keep going to, once you fulfill your physical, then you can go to the next one, security, and so on. Now, there's a new addition to the previous, or the original Maslow pyramid or hierarchy of needs, and it's represented by the yellow triangle here, where after self-actualization comes spiritual. So, how can we get to the spiritual? We need to, have our body needs, security needs, social needs, and self-actualization, and then we can reach the top of the spiritual. So this is a new way of looking at the Maslow hierarchical pyramid of needs. Okay, next, we'll continue with Fowler, who he defined the faith or spirituality development and by stages, which I'll go quickly over those. So Fowler stages start with the pre-stage or primal faith, which it's where for infants and toddlers. Well, you can read what I have in the slide. It's part of the child's or infant, warm, safe, versus, unsafe, environment, and, learning, if you do this, it will hurt. If you do that, it would, have pleasure, so to speak. In another way of saying the pre-stage, sometimes they put a 0 instead of just calling pre-stage. It's stage 0. It's also called undifferentiated because, you're talking about infants and toddlers that, don't necessarily can perceive things. Now, the intuitive and projective, which is at the preschool age, see where it says, magical, the intuitive, sometimes at this stage, the explanations or the reasons for things being may be, we started associating things that it could be quite, you realize that we're talking about preschool children, so they may believe in fairy tales, right? Stage 2, which is the mystic literal, that's school-age children. There's where they, strong belief in justice and reciprocity, start to develop. Besides all of the other things listed here. Stage 3, synthetic, conventional. Then this your values starts to set in. This is stage 3 is during adolescence. Stage 4, individuative and reflective. That's early adulthood. You're taking for responsibilities of your belief, your systems, your commitments, etc. Stage 5, conjunctive, middle adulthood. You acknowledge the paradoxes of existence. We know that deeper meaning of all things, awareness. Maybe we're not alone. What happened after death. And things like that. Then universalizing is actually quite rare, which is enlightenment. If you can see the sort of trend here, right? The higher would be self-actualization, right? And you see the similarities between some of the previous theories. What else can I say? Understand that threat to any living thing, individual threat to whole. That's that you feel that connection. Like I said, that's enlightenment. Which we'll be lucky if we get there. Next is transpersonal series of human development. We have first force, second force, third force, and fourth force. The psychodynamic perspective, the first, the behavioral perspective, the second, the existential, humanistic, experimental perspective is the third, and the fourth based on transpersonal series. What this means, well, you have to go back to previous chapters, right? So if you notice, as you go from first to second to third, the third, just to jump to third, you're getting more into self-actualization, and it's this fourth, that is the spiritual dimension. Remember this, self, and this, self-actualization, and then spiritual. So you see a trend here where, the finding this sort of enlightenment is the ultimate. Hence, that's what with the spirituality, the amount the amount of time we devote to it, the fervor, like I said, time, resources, we can attain that top of the pyramid. So transpersonal theory. So premise that some state of human consciousness and potential to go beyond our traditional views of health and normality, to go beyond the self toward higher levels of consciousness. which is being enlightenment, either spiritual, then you can argue that, some people may argue that, you can be a better person, but also be a healthier person. Even if you don't believe in an entity or a God, you still can reach it by being one with the environment, your family, your community, animals, trees. I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but that's once you sort of surpass the sort of traditional ways of health and normality, then you can experience that level of human conscious that is above and beyond what most of us may get. If you get there, you're we should all strive for that, but we're not all are able, or maybe will be able, but at least we're striving for that. And a lot of us use religion. Some maybe use yoga, Buddhism, some other way, transcendental meditation, other ways to become, above that, above the normal, and above the common way of understanding and appreciating and viewing the world around us. Okay, so let's now talk about Ken Wilber as integral theory, also known as spiritual dynamics. There's this quadrant here, if you see the here, the I, the it, the it's, and the we. So let's concentrate on those. There are, how do we get to? We've been talking about this enlightenment, right? This level. So they're different ways of sort of explaining, this roadmap to, to consciousness, or full consciousness. And there are, you see, when you see here individual, well, because we can do it individual, we also can do it collective. We have the interior and the exterior. If you see here, personal meaning or sense of self, subjective truthfulness, the I, right? The we, so that's still interior, but collective is the we, cultural, right? Culture, share values, intersubjective justness, meaning instead of objective, it's subjective because it depends on the values, and what is justness, being just, right, being proper, being fair, and all that. As an individual, we have the eat, right? This is more behavioral, physical body, observable behaviors, and that's exterior, because that's what the behavior, that's what other person could see, or well, you could see it too. I already talked about the we. So as a collective, and exterior is the ids, which the social, institution, system. So instead of being cultural, is with the systems, the laws, right? Sometimes, well, nature, you cannot, um, um, you know, there might be a mountain, a river, and so that's a barrier, and you have to adjust, right? Social laws, you're not allowed to do this, but it's as a society, you can have, if you go back to here to the lower left quadrant, you have the we, and sometimes that is, in conflict with the social, the it's, because, culturally, you may believe in something, you may be accustomed to something, but, the law, and the system of society, it's the opposite. It's no match, and there, hence we have problems. So, what does this have to do with anything? Well, you probably want to have some sort of balance, right, between all of this quadrants, right? Now, I'm not gonna go in detail, because which one should be you put more weight. Well, that's obviously up to you. This is sort of a description, or a plan of how behaviorally we how do we behave, and each of these quadrants obviously have to do with behavior, and obviously we're talking about spiritual, so our intentional, behavioral, cultural may say something, and then social, social means in established, religion, it have its dogma and its rules, right? So there's different aspect, and for a lot of us, it is a we experience all of this, even if you are don't believe in any God, then, for instance, you may be going against the grain, so that have something to do, culturally, internally, that's what you believe is the truth, but doesn't go. That doesn't mean that, again, you couldn't reach enlightenment. It just does, different sort of forces here that play a role in, hence the integral theory of conscious, that all of these four quadrants, play a role. Let's see. Well, I am running out of time. I'll let you read the next couple of slides on your own. Let's see. No, this one. The difference between Fowler and Wilber. You can see that there were, some similarities, but also, They lack attention to children, serious difficulty in providing empirical basis, their theoretical approach. Well, yeah, it's spirituality is it's a concept, an abstract concept, I should say. And sorry, I'm going all over the place because I lost my place here. Oh, here we go. So, it's difficult to prove. I think when we have issues is, we think, and it's fine, praying, how can you prove empirically that praying helps? But, remember, this is more than just religion. This is about spirituality and finding this state of consciousness that, makes you function, right? Getting into this stage, or that you function, everything is copacetic, you have a good connection with others, you have a connection inside, outside, cumulative, right? Like Wilber said, as a culture, as a, going back here, collective and individual. Where was I think you can cover all of this on your own. I already spent, talked more than 30 minutes. You probably don't want to hear me for more than that. You can follow along with the rest of the slides and the book. All right, I will leave you there. Hopefully I'll just started you with, the chapter. We'll meet hopefully virtually again this week. Don't forget, especially if you have any questions. So I will let you go for now. I'll see you soon, or talk to you soon.